This episode we'll be reviewing Doctor Who Season 8, Episode 5, Time Heist. This episode of Doctor Who opens with the Doctor trying to talk Clara into an adventure while she gets ready for a date with Dan Pink, her second date with him. Despite trying to convince her, telling her the adventures that he has planned for the day, she is resolute. She says no, she has a date, she just wants to do something normal, and the Doctor seems super bummed out about this. It's also fun as he's watching her get ready and he's just asking questions like, why is your face painted in? Why are you so tall? So just as Clara is about to exit her apartment to go on her date with Dan Pink, the TARDIS phone rings. Clara walks back, looks at the TARDIS, and tells him, don't answer it. A thing will happen if you answer it. He claims a thing won't happen, answers the phone, and a thing happens. So all of a sudden, they are transported into a room with two other people, and they have no memory of how or why they got there. This is where we're introduced to Psy, an augmented human being, and Cybra, a mutant human. Questioning how they got there, they finally hear their own voices play from a machine, confirming their memories have been wiped by their own free will. The next recording, a man that calls himself the Architect, informs them that they are going to rob a bank, Bank Carabraxus, the most secure bank in the galaxy. We learn the security is very tight and that air consumption and DNA are used to monitor bank patrons. Failing any of these tests results in immediate incineration, or as we learn, something much worse. We also learn that their presence is unauthorized and that the little team they have together has already been detected and a security team has been sent to dispatch them. Next scene, we meet Miss Delphox, and she is someone that helps run the bank and looks like she's in charge. And she is checking on her security personnel that are meant to capture the Doctor and his team, and she finds out that they've failed. So she goes to her next defense, which is an impressive creature called the Teller, which we see is locked in this giant box. And we don't quite know what it's going to do yet, but we know that if she keeps it locked up, most likely it can do a lot of damage. So then we cut back to the team and we learn more about our newcomers. Psy used to be a bank robber, and Cybra can replicate into anyone just by touching them, which she does by touching Clara and taking her face. So standing outside the bank, it's kind of a cool scene. They're all standing there. Cybra is now looks like an older man that is a bank patron, and they decide to go in. Walking into the bank, they're talking, trying to figure out what they should do when the Teller walks in. And this is a huge beast with two stalks coming out of its head which have eyes. And we find out the ability of the Teller is he can sense guilt, and he can go through your memories, and once he finds the guilt, he then liquefies your brain. He feeds on your brain. So the bank seals because they know that the bank and the planet had been infiltrated and that there are people that are there that shouldn't be there. But fortunately for the team, the Teller doesn't go towards them, but goes to a gentleman, probably mid-30s, and senses his guilt. He reads his memories, and he decides he's guilty and just liquefies his brain. It is a terrifying scene and image to see because the guy's brain is, all concave now. I really liked the pace of this scene. I liked how there isn't a lot of dilly-dallying, let's explain everything. They go right from the intro in the episode to, oh shoot, a thing happened, to, okay, we're in the bank, let's get this done. And then also it introduced this pretty terrifying creature that, disposes of you of no mercy. And on top of that, not only does it liquefy your brain, but then the security in the bank will also incarcerate your next of kin. So continuing on, they enter another room and they try to figure out where to go next. The Doctor ends up breathing on one of the DNA things and a briefcase appears. When they open it, it looks like there's a bomb inside it. Psy, who's, an augmented human, is able to plug himself into the computer or paneling of the wall of the bank, and he figures out the bank schematics. And they realize that to get to the next part where they need to, they have to go through all the floors beneath them, which are quite a few. And the Doctor goes, well, I guess we know why we need the bomb. And this is where the team, kind of put together, has no idea, starts to question what they're doing, because there's a chance that everyone will be blown up And even Clara says that, and the doctor reminds her, pessimism isn't attractive, doesn't look good, you shouldn't be doing it. And so the doctor eventually convinces them by saying, we all agreed of our own free will, we heard it on the recordings, that we were going to erase our memories, and there's a reward at the end of this. So think about what you want most in this world, and that's what you're going to be getting. So they all decide that they're going to go through with it. The doctor ends up putting the bomb down, and they're all huddling against the walls trying to, escape it, hopefully not get hurt. And then there's just a quiet little noise, and they look and they figure out that the bomb displaces particles to a different plane, and it makes a nice little hole for them to climb down. So there's no big bang, nothing. And I love the little quip as the doctor looks at them and says, let's go. And he goes, "Team not dead." And they continue on. Still really loving the doctor's sense of humor and really loving this kind of competitive, smug, cold, but kind of just quippy doctor that we have. They climb down the hole, and they make sure they rematerialize the floor above them in the room they're in, so that when the guards eventually come in, they won't discover that they've gone down. So once they get to the bottom, they discover another briefcase. This briefcase contains 6 syringes, which are named shredders. The doctor claims he doesn't know what this is, and Cybra tells him he's a liar. The doctor ignores her, and we start to see Cy having more glitches, and he says that stress drains his battery, it causes issues every once in a while. So the doctor has Clara stay with Cy while he recharges or plugs into the wall, and he goes up ahead with Cybra to make sure, there's nothing up ahead. This scene helps us kind of figure out about Cy and Cybra and figuring out what their motives are and who they are. So we learn that Cy ended up going to prison and he was interrogated, and to protect his friends and family, he erased all his memories of them. So they're all deleted, he has nothing. And you start to kind of realize that maybe his reward is maybe he'll meet his family again, or maybe there's backup memory database, something. So we start to see a little bit more of the why Cy might be here. Meanwhile, Cybra and the doctor are scouting ahead, and Cybra questions him about the syringes, and he explains that they are an exit strategy, which kind of heavily implies that the injections will kill you as a last-minute escape. Which, is kind of thankful, because who wants to be a soup brain person from the teller? This is where we learn more about Cybra, and she explains that being a mutant is a boon and that she can't get close to anyone because as soon as she touches them, she becomes them. And she asks the doctor, could you trust someone that looks back with your own eyes? This is when Cy and Clara catch up with them, and then they go through a large ventilation shaft. Only thing that I kind of didn't like about the scene was the large ventilation shafts. I mean, really, these ventilation shafts are so big that adults can comfortably crawl through them. I mean, they were able to fit like 2 of them abreast in this thing. It just felt like, oh, hey, every 80s spy movie ever, do you want your ventilation shafts back? This is like terrible security. It's like security 101, don't have huge vents. These events, they actually end up in the room containing the teller. And the doctor instructs them not to think and be quiet, because if you start thinking, you'll wake it and it'll be able to latch onto you. For the most part, Clara is able to kind of calm down her brain, but at the last minute, the teller awakes and they try to scramble to get out of the room through, another vent. Unfortunately, the teller latches onto Cybra's thoughts before she can get out of the room. This is a really sad scene, especially, just Clara is begging the doctor to help her, and the doctor climbs out of the vent and basically says, I can't save you. There's nothing I can do. He's latched onto your brain. After he goes through your memories, he's going to find out your guilt, and he's going to end up turning you into a soup brain. The only thing the doctor offers her is the syringe, which is the exit strategy. And she is assuming, I'm going to die, and he's like, yeah, probably. And she injects herself with a syringe, and she disappears. So this was kind of I know we've seen this cold doctor before, but it was it's interesting to see a doctor not be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't save you. Like we saw with Tennant, oh, I'm so sorry. Or with the Matt Smith's doctor, who was just constantly like losing people. You could see just tore open his heart. This doctor was very, yeah, you're gonna die. Here, I can offer you a way to die less painfully. So then we go to the next scene, and the doctor doesn't even want to stop to mourn her, and tells them that Cybra's dead. They're not. If they want to keep it that way, they need to keep moving on. And this really upsets Sai and goes, you're the doctor. I bet you just have clinical distance from people. And the doctor, just the look on his face when he walks away, and you can tell that he's hurting and he feels it, but he can't show it. And part of this makes me feel like this is part of his redemption arc. This is part of him realizing, I've done a lot of terrible things. I've seen a lot of terrible things. I can't stop and mourn and be upset anymore. I have to keep going. I have to make things right. And it really seems to other people that he's so cold and unfeeling, but they don't realize that he needs to be this way to get done what he needs to do and keep other people alive. He knows after 2,000 years, if he focuses on mourning Cybra, he will not be able to keep the other two people and himself alive. So the doctor walks away, and Clara tries to tell him, he's not normally like this. Underneath, he's a lot better. And Sai kind of just snarls at her, I can tell you've been with him a long time. You're full of excuses for him. Which was super just ouch. But, you kind of understood where Sai was coming from. You just meet a man. He just seems like, whatever, she's dead. Let's keep going. We don't want to be the same way. I mean, how would you feel? You don't really know him. He doesn't know the doctor. He doesn't know that he's over 2,000 years old. He doesn't know that he's prevented so much loss and also experienced so much loss. From there, we switch back to Del Fox, and she is fearing for her life because she knows that if the team succeeds in robbing the bank, Madame Carboxys will end their employment, which also means their life. So she decides that she's going to release the teller into the tunnels to get the last 3 members of the team. So Sai is, at this moment, working on opening the vault, which there's 24 of them, and Clara and the doctor have to split up to delay the teller because the doctor has realized that the teller has latched onto one of their thoughts, and he doesn't know which thought patterns he's locked onto. So, in a suspenseful moment, we're seeing Sai trying to get the vault unlocked, and we see that the teller has actually latched on to Clara, and Clara is trying her hardest just not to think of anything, just go blank, and she finally just realizes she can't, and she tries to bolt past him, and the teller latches onto her and starts going through her memory. But what is really cool here is that in an act of true bravery, Sai distracts the teller, ends up taking in all the information of criminals and people that were guilty and projects that and starts screaming for the teller to come after him, which the teller does. And before the teller can kill him, he injects himself with the exit strategy syringe and disappears. I really like this portion of the scene. I could have been a little more suspenseful, like the teller going after them. It kind of was abruptly, the teller's here, the teller latched on to Clara, but, I mean, it's a 45-minute run, so what can you expect? They don't have a lot of time, and there has to go a lot of editing and cutting out of the episode, and sometimes that makes scenes seem rushed. But I really like Sai's sacrifice, and it was really sad when he was about to die, and, trying to tell Clara, if it's any consolation for you, if you were to die, the people you love and care about and would miss would flash before your eyes. But when I'm about to die, I don't have any memories. I don't have anyone to flash before my eyes, which was just oh. But on the other hand, we kind of wonder, because we still don't know a lot about Clara, so who would flash before Clara's eyes? Who is a permanent solid structure in her life? We don't really know too much yet. So the doctor and Clara meet up again, and they realize that the unlocking failed on the last lock, and that Sai's efforts may have been for nothing. That's when they detect that a solar storm is coming, and the doctor begins to realize that how would they know the exact moment that the solar storm was going to come, which in turn ends up messing with the bank's defense systems and allowing them to enter the vault. And the doctor decides that there must be someone from the future. So this is a time heist. Someone from the future planned this and knows what they're doing. So was planned in the future and they came to the past. So the solar storm does end up doing that. It ends up messing with the defense system and allows them to enter the vault. Once they're in there, we figure out what Sai and Cybra's reward was. Sai's was a technology to restore his memories, and then the other reward was a serum that would suppress Cybra's mutation. Before they can find Clara and the doctor's reward, they come face to face with the teller and end up in Delphox's office. Tells them that they will be destroyed, the bank will be secure, she will keep her job, there's a happy ending for everyone. She leaves the two guards with Clara and the doctor to exterminate them, and she exits to put the teller away. This is when the guards reveal that they're actually Sai and Cybra, and the syringes were teleportation devices that brought them to a ship orbiting the planet. This was another interesting scene because when it's revealed that Sai and Cybra are still alive, the doctor is just shocked. He's like, "You're alive, you're alive, you're alive." Like, he just keeps repeating himself, and you can really see how relieved he is that they are alive and they did make it, and that he doesn't have more deaths on his hand. So the doctor decides that they're going to finish the job, so they make it to a private vault. The vault is filled with tons of artifacts, and the doctor guesses correctly that the person that owns the vault is in it, and they come face to face with Madame Carabraxus, which looks just like Delphox. So we learn that she owns the entire bank, and she creates clones of herself to take care of the running of the bank. And anytime the clones let her down, she ends up incinerating them and just replacing it with another clone. She commands her clone to send the teller down to the vault, and also that it's fired and it will be incinerated. And she reveals that she's going to leave the bank before the solar storm ends up destroying the bank. Before she leaves, the doctor ends up asking for a piece of paper and ends up writing on the top of it that he's a time traveler and his phone number on the inside, instructing her to call him when she finally needs him. And, she kind of remarks, "Why would I need you? You're going to be dead." And he's just like, "Trust me. One day, I'm going to be dead. You're going to be super old. You're going to be full of regrets. You're going to want to call me." And so she takes the paper and she leaves. As she leaves, the teller arrives, and instead of trying to fight it or get away from it, the doctor allows it to access his memories and help him remember why he's doing the job, and let the teller realize that there's a reason why he's doing a job, and that Carabraxus is no longer controlling him and no longer in charge of the teller. Once all this happens, a really funny scene happens while the teller is accessing his memories, where he's seen all the things and he's like, "Oh, a long scarf, a bow tie, ugh, this is embarrassing." And then he goes, "I was trying for minimalist with my new outfit, but I think I made it, but I think I look like a magician." So it was just a very self-aware kind of meta moment that I really liked. So after seeing his memories and seeing, the teller realizes he's free and he's no longer controlled by the owner of the bank, he opens the side of the vault, a door on the side of the vault, and reveals the female of his species, the only other member of his species alive. So we learn that the teller was forced to work at the bank and turn people's brains to soup in order to keep her alive, keep the other last of his species alive. So now we kind of know when Delphox was saying that everyone has a price, what his price was. He was willing to be enslaved to save one of the last of his race. After setting the tellers on a planet in peace, the Doctor and Clara say goodbye to Sai and Cybra. There's a cute little moment where he's saying bye to Sai, and, he says, "Oh, if you ever need me to rob a bank, call me." And Clara hugs him and says, that's not really his thing. And behind her back, the Doctor does the "call me" sign, which I'm really hoping means that eventually Sai does end up calling him and he becomes a companion. We've seen a lot of humans be companions. It'd be really nice to see something that's not quite human be a companion, especially from the future, because it's usually present time. So the episode finally ends with Clara going on her date and the Doctor quipping that Pink will never be able to beat their adventure they had today. I really think this was a solid episode. It wasn't as good as the episode before, Listen, but it was really kind of hard to beat Listen because it had such an emotional impact. I love the quips, I love the dialogue, I think the CGI was great, there was great pacing, it was, moving forward. Sometimes it can feel really rushed when you cut the episodes down to 45 minutes, but I think I really liked the episode. The reveal at the end was kind of rushed, but 45 minutes, you gotta do what you gotta do. I really like the development that we had with the Doctor, where we are still seeing his personality and his guilt and his need to kind of just be more and set things right, and just his redemption arc. I also like that it wasn't focused so much on Clara this episode, and we got to focus on other people and meet other people, and they were useful, and the Doctor was useful, and Clara wasn't like the center of why things were happening, which was really nice. As much as I like Clara, I like to see other people do the work too. If you want to see more Doctor Who videos, you can click on any of the links. We also have the links in the description below. Subscribe, like this video,